What reaction did General Grievous have to the death of Dooku? And why was he strangely excited and pleased, while also obviously disappointed and frightened? Greetings again, Acolytes, and welcome back to the Archives. Martynas was a constant in the life of Grievous after his cybernetic transformation. The Count would train him to be the ultimate killer of the Jedi, exploring the ins and outs of the lightsaber combat. Despite this, and the promises Dooku made to Grievous about helping him exact vengeance on the Jedi, the two didn't exactly have a good relationship. Neither one attempted to hide their disdain for the other, with Dooku believing Grievous was no more than a rabid monster, and Grievous viewing Dooku as an irritating but a necessary tool for his ambitions, a necessary trainer. However, right at the end of the third year of the Clone War, an unexpected surprise hit the war effort. During the Separatist moment of triumph over Coruscant, Dooku falls dead at the hand of Anakin Skywalker. So what happened after Grievous first found out about his master's death? His thoughts and feelings were a lot more complicated than one may expect. So let's begin and open a holocron. Before we begin though, we have had a terrible vision through the Force. Many of the individuals who use our archives are not yet subscribed to our order, so if you've been enjoying the daily holocron uploads, reach out and crush that subscribe button. It is your destiny, we have foreseen it. The moment Grievous realized that Dooku had died during the Battle of Coruscant was actually an awkward one. He had been in communication with a young Republic officer during a ceasefire. The droid general demanded that the officer tell his superiors to move their ships out of the way and allow him to jump to hyperspace. Otherwise, he threatened to disembowel the Chancellor live on the HoloNet. The young officer insisted that Grievous show him the Chancellor so that he knew that Grievous was not bluffing. The general scoffed at the command and told his comm officer to patch him through to Dooku. The comm officer said that Dooku wasn't responding at that moment, and there, Grievous insisted that he bring up the security feed of the quarters where the Chancellor and Dooku were being held. But once the comm officer did so, he suggested that Grievous take a look first. And this is what the novelization for Revenge of the Sith reads. The plain urgency of his tone brought Grievous to his side without another word. The general bent over the screen that showed the view inside his quarters and found himself looking at a jumbled piles of energy-sheared wreckage surrounding the empty shape of the general's chair. And that looked like it could have been a body, draped in a cape of armor weave. After seeing the holofeed of Dooku's body, Grievous stumbles to attempt to tell the Republic officer that the Chancellor was indisposed at that moment. The officer calls the general's bluff and tells him that he has 10 minutes to surrender before he open fires. After that, the Republic cuts communication, and this is what the novel reads. When Grievous turned to the bridge security officer, his mask was blankly expressionless as ever, but he made up for it with the open murder in his voice. Dooku is dead, and the Jedi are loose. They have the Chancellor. Find them and bring them to me. His armor-plast fingers curled into a fist that crashed down on the security console so hard that the entire thing collapsed into a sparking, smoking ruin. Find them now. While the novel doesn't give us much to go off of when it comes to his initial reaction, we make our own assessments by reading between the lines and further in the novel. Grievous's first reactions is clearly shock and anger. Having been trained by Martynas, Grievous is clearly overcome with astonishment that anyone besides Lord Sidious could best the Count in personal combat. Given how strong of a duelist Dooku was, Grievous knew from his personal experience that no average Jedi, in the general's opinion, could ever conceivably come close to Dooku. While he never really liked his master, Grievous respected the Count for how powerful of a warrior he was. Being of the Kaleesh, he was a warrior race like the Mandalorians, and Grievous begrudgingly respects anyone who knows how to fight. And of course, after numerous sessions of being defeated again and again by Dooku, it didn't seem like a possibility in Grievous's mind that he could just go down so simply. Not to mention, the two men that were responsible, Kenobi and Skywalker, were loose. If Dooku was dead, then Grievous knew that he was next. This was why he didn't even bother engaging the two Jedi once they reached the command bridge. His immediate thought was to retreat, so the next emotion would be pure anger brought about by his fear from the Jedi, something that he hated within himself. Much later though, Grievous would finally have a meeting on Utapau with Lord Sidious. Here, we get to understand a little bit more about what was going on through Grievous's mind once all the action had died out. We know of their interaction in Revenge of the Sith, when Grievous inquires about the loss of Dooku, to which Palpatine states that this was a necessary sacrifice. Surprising to Grievous, he would later reiterate this point in another holo message that the two share in the novel that is not present in the film. The book reads as follows. Grievous says, "Master, if I may trouble you with my boldness, why did you not let me kill Chancellor Palpatine? We may never get a better chance." Palpatine responds, "The time was not yet ripe. Patience, my general. The end of the war is near, and victory is certain." Even with the loss of Dooku, Grievous responds, "Dooku was not lost, he was sacrificed. A strategic sacrifice, as one offers up a piece into Jarek to draw the opponent into one fatal blunder. I was never much the Jarek player, my master," Grievous said. "I prefer real war. And you shall have your fill, I promise you. The fatal blunder you speak of, if I may once again trouble you with my boldness, you will come to understand soon enough." Grievous could hear the smile in his master's voice. "All will be clear once you meet my new apprentice." From these interactions, Grievous was far less concerned with the loss of Dooku than he was with how it would impact the Separatist movement. Dooku was the political figurehead of the Confederacy. He was their face, their voice to the galaxy. This made him a sort of binding glue to hold the entire movement together. His brave words and charisma not only kept the CIS emboldened towards their goal, but was also their spokesperson to the Republic. Without Dooku, all Separatist morale would tank, meaning that funding would be pulled as the Trade Federation and the Techno Union would abandon their support. This possibility meant no more droids, no more ships, no more armies, and no more war. This is, unless Grievous was able to take that position as the leader of the movement. While the risk of Dooku's death were noticeable, the general was at least pleased that his ambitions were paying off. Now Grievous was the leader of the Confederacy. He was the one in command, and he was finally speaking directly to Lord Sidious. Dooku was not in his way, and Grievous considered this the ultimate honor. This was a massive promotion for Grievous, as now he was gaining the power that he needed for his own goals. In short, the secondary reaction that Grievous had was that he was pleased with moving up the ranks and privileges, but Grievous was aware of his new responsibilities as the leader, some of which he was not entirely suited for, and he knew it. Grievous was no political public icon, and certainly did not have the charisma that Dooku had. He could not embolden the Confederacy, he would frighten them. But luckily for Grievous, he believed that he wouldn't need to do this. Grievous cared little for Dooku, or even the Separatist movement, or even the Sith, but what he did care about was the war effort against the Jedi. By 19 BBY, the Separatists were losing the war, and it may not have looked that way to the Republic due to Grievous's strategic fear-inducing military strikes, but if you actually look at the facts of the war, the CIS were on the back foot. The Jedi and the Republic forces were deeply entrenched in a period of time known as the Outer Rim Sieges, and during this era in the war, the Republic was actually on the Separatist doormat, as they had launched many successful but grueling assaults on the core Confederate stronghold worlds. The attack on Coruscant had been a desperate strike against the fortitude of the Republic's people. It was a move to stoke the fear and to make it look like the Republic was losing, but in reality, the Separatists were on the brink of defeat. The loss of Dooku was far more catastrophic to the Confederate war effort than many realized. Grievous was now backed into a corner and had to remain in hiding on Utapau, forced to wait for the alleged Hail Mary that Sidious had promised all of them in a new apprentice, one far younger and more powerful. Little did Grievous know that just like Dooku, he had outlived his usefulness, and he too would prove to be a strategic sacrifice. But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on the mixed emotions that Grievous had when he discovered the death of Dooku? Tell us, how do you interpret Grievous's reaction in the film? And were you surprised with just how integral Dooku really was, even though it was never shown by his master? As always, my friends, thank you so much for visiting the channel and the archives today, and as always, may the Force be with you.